Hey, we are back out at the Solar Sled. So we talked before about this panel was dead, the LCD that's in the charge controller. Picked up a new charge controller from the Renogy store on eBay, which actually is the same brand as the panel. Quite a bit smaller than the Chinese junk that we have on there now. So let's swap it out and see if it's going to work any better for us. Okay, well, that was kind of short-lived. I got the new panel on, and instead of like putting it down here, I wanted it further up to help keep it a little bit more out of the weather. But I can't hook any of the terminals up because the terminal block on this one is larger and the wires on my PV feeds don't fit inside the terminal blocks here. So I guess I'm going to head down to the Chinese Emporium and pick up some shoelace connectors. I don't know what they call them, little doodad that goes on the end of the cable. So that's okay. I don't have to have this done today. We've had kind of a warm snap, and it's not supposed to freeze until this weekend. So I've got a couple days to get it done. Let's see what we can do. You know, since I happen to be out here, I don't know how long these birds are going to be with us, so I figured I'd do this update right now. But if you look at the tails on a few of these birds, I think we got us some fellas in this group. Oh, we'll see. Because that's a hen, and she's got a lot of tail. But I don't know, these little ones, hard to tell just yet. We'll see. Okay, we are back out here. It took me like a week to get back to this. The little bootlace connectors or the ferrules that I was trying to use on the end of the PV cables did not work. So what I ended up doing is I just put a small piece of 14 gauge at the end of this. This charge controller is only rated at 10 amps, and 14 gauge will still do more than 10 amps. I mean, the panel should only be putting out 6 amps max. Anyway, we put those little adapters in there. I've got this thing hooked up. I need to run through, it looks like it's charging. I need to run through and try and program this and figure out how to get it to turn on. And we'll see if I can do that right now. I can't do it on camera and hold the camera at the same time. Okay, so I think I got it set up. All I needed to do was verify the type of battery, which these are sealed lead acid batteries, and then I needed to set when the load is enabled. So for right now, for what I'm doing, since this needs to run at night in order to allow the heater to come on to keep the chicken water warm, we set this to, let's see if I can cycle through here. So right now we're seeing battery voltage is at 25. Currently there's zero load. So load mode 0 is that the load will turn on when the sun goes down. We're seeing 25 volts out of the panel, and it's charging at 5.5 amps right now. So we should be all set as far as allowing this to run in the evening as soon as panel voltage drops off. So the last thing that I wanted to try and do to this for right now is I wanted to get some sort of shielding over the top of the inverter. And I've got a couple of pieces of water bottles that I cut up. We're gonna get these over the top of that. So let me trim these up and then we'll see how it ends up. All right, so what we ended up with is these two containers that were cut open. They're open on the bottom, so we still have plenty of airflow, I hope. It's open sort of over here. I wanted a little bit more shielding on this side because when the fan kicks on, it sucks from this side and then it exhausts over here. So I wasn't as worried about this, but we do have shielding over the top of that. It's not intended to make it watertight or anything like that. I just figured if anything blows in this way, it'll keep most of it off the top. So I think for now, we are all set. We'll turn the inverter on so that when the load kicks on tonight, the inverter will power up. Everything is set. We've changed everything about this panel or everything about this sled since we got it. The only thing that really hasn't changed is that I'm running the same panel and the panel, the little A-frame that mounts it, and then I'm running the same style of batteries, but the way that we're attempting to use the load, the inverter that we've got, the charge controller, running the load off of a relay off the load terminals, all of this has completely changed since we initially set it up. And honestly, for right now, the use case is completely different because what I wanted when I set this up in the spring was just a panel that was only going to run and give me 120 volts when the sun was out. Now we're pretty much doing the opposite. We're charging all day and then we're running a load all night. But I would have been able to do that just by changing the mode on the charge controller if I had needed to. But obviously the rest of this wasn't exactly sound. It wasn't really thought out. It was just kind of, here's a couple ideas. This should get me to a point where it works and then we can upgrade from there. And here we are. But this is pretty much the 2.0 version, I guess, since everything has been changed out. I did have one thing that I wanted to add. I'd gotten a handful of comments that sometimes the audio sounded like I was underwater. I don't necessarily try and focus on production quality over, showing what we actually have to go through and the things that we do. But I did go ahead and I bought a DJI remote mic, so hopefully y'all can hear me a little bit better. Let me know if it's better or worse or you don't notice a difference, but hopefully this will cut down on some of the wind noise that you get from the videos when